Second part of verse 11, he entered through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands. That is to say, not of this creation, and not through the blood of goats and calves, but through his own blood. People criticize Christianity as a bloody religion. I suppose it is. I suppose it is. But when you deal with life and death, there's going to be blood involved. How vile, this is something that A.W. Pink said, how vile and accursed then must sin be, seeing that it can only be paid for by so costly a sacrifice. Jesus had to die on a cross. On a cross. Perhaps the most cruel method of execution ever devised. They would start by beating the victim with a device that had a number of thongs of leather, and embedded in the end of the leather thongs was pieces of lead or pieces of cupped steel. The idea was it would hook into the victim's flesh and pull chunks off. And they would do that until their back and sometimes their front was in ribbons. Often those thongs would wrap around the back of their head into their face and take their eyes, their teeth. It was horrible what they did. Many times there was never a crucifixion in the end. They died from the flogging. Horrific what they did. They would hang them there. They'd strip them naked and hang them there, low enough for people to reach. I don't even want to go there. Oftentimes, the victim of crucifixion would hang there long enough until carrion birds would come and pick their flesh off of them, still alive. The horror of the death on the cross. My sin nailed him there. It wasn't the Romans, it wasn't the Jews. It was me. There was no other way to pay for my sin and save my life than that Jesus went to the cross for me in my place. And all my sin was placed on him. And he died for my sin, for yours. There was no payment that the blood of bulls or goats or a heifer could possibly have accomplished. There was no such thing. You know why? They didn't do it. The bull didn't do it. The goats didn't do it. The heifer didn't do it. I did. And as I've grown older in my life, and I realize that there is no sin to which I am not capable of stooping down to. There is no bottom to the well that I could descend to. Given the right circumstances, I could go to any level, any evil. We kid ourselves, well, I would never do that. We hear about some terrible thing on the news. I would never do that. You don't know that. You don't know that. And maybe in our society we give them a hard time, but maybe therapists and lawyers know that better than anybody else, what people will descend to, how vile they can be. And he entered the holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. That thing is eternal redemption. That thing is too big. It speaks of something that, of course, is salvation. This is a synonym for salvation, but it's a specialized one. That he bought us back. He paid the price because when Adam sinned, he sold himself and the rest of humanity to the devil. He subscribed to what the devil was selling him and took all of us down with him. And so a proper description of that was God had to buy us back with a payment. But the blood of bulls and goats and a heifer and a wave offering and all of those, that simply could not do that. But he entered the holy place once for all. This is where he's not going into a model as the Levitical high priest, as Aaron's descendants, the high priest would go into the holy place in the tabernacle, the Holy of Holies. He's going into heaven, the real thing. He's gone from a model, a representation, a picture, a symbol, a shadow, if you will. He's now going into the actual place, face to face with the living God. And no man-made tent could equal that. He entered into the true holy place. Now, he just calls it the holy place here, but really he's talking about the whole tabernacle, because the whole thing is the holy place. But in the holy place is the Holy of Holies. You with me on that? And we talked about the furniture and all the cool things that are in there. We talked about that. And there are people that say that I'm just going to touch on this real quick. There are people that say that Jesus did not offer the blood before the Father before he ascended. That it only happened after he ascended. Well, that doesn't really make sense. One, why would he do that? Into your hands, Father, I commit my spirit. Why would he say that? The second thing is, remember the conversation he had with the thief on the cross? And I'll try to resist talking about that wonderful story about, the guy, the man on the cross in the middle. I'll try to avoid that. That's really tough because I love that story. But remember what he said to the thief on the cross. This day you will be with me in paradise, which we know is the only place that exists is in heaven. And so why would he go all the way to heaven and not present his life's blood to the Father? Why would he wait? So I think it's kind of silly to say, well, no, it really didn't happen until... He was offering himself as a priest. At no other time was an offering in the model of it in the tabernacle. Once it was offered in the Holy of Holies on the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant, it was done. Right there. They killed the animal, they went directly in. So it would be blowing the picture. So that day, Jesus offered his blood before the Father. And he did it once. There's no need to replace this. No need to repeat it. No need to do it different. No need to add anything to it. He did it once. Just once. We talked a little bit about how the last week about how the feasts describe a revolving calendar that goes year after year after year, which reminds us that system, the Mosaic covenant of sacrifice, was insufficient. But then, when he came, as in that revolving calendar, he only offered himself one time and it's complete, it's done. And everything else, all the other feasts, are some kind of description of what he accomplished when he did that at Passover.